This is the Transformers Generations Studio Series Gamer Edition Transformers War for Cybertron Deluxe Class Bumblebee. The figure is figure number 01 or positive 01. And here is a look at this awesome packaging. Fantastic box art all around. Very, very cool. I picked up this figure from Robo. And here is War for Cybertron Gamer Edition Deluxe Class Bumblebee out of the box. And you know what? This figure is actually not as bad as I thought it would be. I immediately dismissed this figure once it was revealed that it was gonna suck. I don't think it was gonna be as good as the original. It probably is still not as good as the original version, but it's not bad. And there are some things about this figure that are actually pretty good and pretty okay. Let's take a closer look at the details of this new War for Cybertron Gamer Edition Bumblebee. Head to toe, the figure stands at about 12.5 centimeters tall, or about 5 inches tall, just under 5 inches tall. For some size comparisons, here he is with fellow Wavemates of the Studio Series Gamer Edition line. We've got the Voyager class Gamer Edition Optimus Prime, as well as Deluxe class Barricade. For some more comparisons in robot mode, here is the new War for Cybertron Bumblebee with, this one is the Rise of the Beasts Studio Series Bumblebee. You can see he is much taller, about 0.5 centimeter taller than this figure. This is the old War for Cybertron Bumblebee figure that we got years ago. And this is the Cliffjumper version, basically the same mold. They just changed the head sculpt. And you can see how much better looking this figure is in terms of proportion. I do like the proportion better. He doesn't look like it doesn't look too gangly, because this sculpt, this old figure, kind of reminds me of Mr. Saru on Star Trek Discovery, because of the long gangly legs and the very, very goofy proportions. But with this one, I think they got the proportions right. But you can really see how much smaller in scale this new figure is compared to the old figure. This was standard deluxe class size back in the day, and you can clearly see how much this new figure has shrunk. And I guess this is a Studio Series figure. They were going for scale, and I think they got it right with the scale. This is going to be absolutely too big in terms of scale for the other War for Cybertron trilogy figures. Like Optimus Prime is perfect as Voyager. He's okay, but I think this is the better size and proportion and scale for somebody like Bumblebee or Cliffjumper compared to Optimus. Yeah, so I think that's what it does better than this one. But in terms of solidness, you can see that the new figure does have more gaps, just by a bit, than the old figure. The old figure still had some gaps, but I think it transformed more solidly, and this one just has a lot of hanging pieces compared to this one. And a big thanks to my good buddy Robert for loaning me this War for Cybertron Cliffjumper figure. I'd already gotten rid of all my War for Cybertron figures back in the day, so big thanks, man. I really appreciate it. You will also note that plastic quality really suffers. If you've seen my review of Optimus Prime, the plastic quality on that figure was craptastic, and unfortunately it is reflected in this figure as well. You get some really not as solid as I wanted it to be. You got this joint just keeps popping off, so do be careful with that. But despite being craptastic, I do feel that the plastic quality on this Bumblebee is better than the plastic quality of this Optimus Prime. I kid you not. I think this one is a lighter kind of plastic. This one I believe is a little bit more solid plastic on this one. Despite being light, it's very solid. There's just a few pieces here and there that are kind of soft, like this one. But most of the pieces, despite being light and not exactly premium plastic, they actually feel very solid, which is weird, because this is a deluxe class figure and the Optimus Prime was a Voyager class figure. They should have more budget for that. So I would say plastic quality on this one is better than Optimus Prime, but it's still not great. Now, and I say that and I compare it with this one. The old plastic was super solid, super glossy, super premium. Even the gray bits on the old figure were just really super rock solid. These new pieces are just a little bit lighter, slightly lighter. I'm gonna give plastic quality on this one a break. I'm not gonna criticize it too much because, you know, for a deluxe class, it's not bad. Let's talk about the really cool features that this figure has. For one, he has got this sword. That's a fantastic sculpt. I mean, look at that. It feels like it's from Middle Earth. Unfortunately, it's not painted. It's not as cool as the old pop out, the flip out, I should say, Energon swords of the old Bumblebee War for Cybertron Bumblebee figures, but it does its job. So you have him hold it, kind of feels like Gimli, or he actually feels like a hobbit. And oh, I almost forgot to mention, his head is unusually big in size in proportion to the body, because look at the size of his head compared to Optimus's head. It's actually bigger. I mean, if you remove the horns, the head on this new Bumblebee is much bigger than Optimus, which is weird considering the fact that he's the smaller character. Okay, the other feature that he has, instead of holding a gun like this one, which I actually do prefer, you get to remove his forearm just like Barricade and Optimus. You can replace it with any one of these blasters or weapons. So this one's actually pretty cool. And you can obviously fit some blast effects on it. It's got a 3mm port. Or if you feel like him having and holding a bigger weapon, it'll also fit other blast effects, which I thought was pretty cool. I mean, look at that. Look how cool that is. Now, unfortunately, well, at least that's what the instructions don't say. There's no way to store the right forearm anywhere in robot mode, unlike Optimus Prime and Barricade. But that's actually fine, because on this figure, you can actually store his weapons instead of the arm on his back. You can actually put one blaster here, and then you can put the other blaster here, or instructions say here. So I actually prefer this. I think that's a plus for this figure, that you can actually store the weapons instead of the forearm. I think that's what they should have done with Optimus Prime. Oh, they actually did that with Optimus Prime, but with Barricade as well. But instead of having a slot for the arm, they should have just added a slot for the weapons. Now, articulation for this figure: the neck is on a ball joint. The waist is on a swivel, a little bit hindered because of the chest. The shoulders are on ball joints. You can go in and out, forward and backward. You got a bicep swivel. You got a hinge elbow, and that peg unfortunately doesn't swivel because it's not round shaped. It has a flat side to it, so it doesn't swivel. The wrists can go in and out because of transformation. Hips are on ball joints. You can do the splits. You do forward, backward. You got a thigh swivel. You got a hinge knee that bends more than 90 degrees. You can bend the leg a little bit like that because of transformation, but that's not really part of articulation. The feet, it's got a rocker tilt a little bit on the opposite side, and some toe articulation because of transformation. Most of the figure is unpainted. They've used this mustard gold glossy pearlesque plastic. I think it's fine, although I think this... It kind of is similar to the plastic they used for the Bumblebee Cybertronian version, the B127 figure. It's just less glossier than this one. So overall, I'm pretty happy with the way the aesthetic and the way the sculpt, paint, and look and feel of this figure in robot mode turned out. I think it's more accurate than this figure. But on a personal note, I do prefer this one better. I mean, even if he's so lanky and he looks like Mr. Saru, I think it's just a more solid robot mode compared to this one. But then again, like I said, you're looking for accuracy and better proportions. This one definitely is the winner. So let's get into transforming this figure. The transformation is horrific, horrendous transformation. But if you manage to get through it and you're okay with it, then you're gonna love this figure. Is it more horrifying and horrific than the previous one? I don't think so. I think the transformation for this figure is a lot more palatable and more bearable than the original one, because the original one was just... It felt like things were going to be cracking in places. compared to this one. So let's get right to it. Let's move the weapons off to the side. You want to do the arms first. You want to fold in the wrist, and then you want to swing the wheel on the forearm till it sort of locks or clicks. I love that. I love the fact that they've added a notch so that you know when to stop. Okay. And then this is very crucial. A lot of the steps are very crucial because if you miss one step, then there's a new nightmare that begins. Okay, so fold up the shoulders up like that. They're gonna stay there for a while. Okay, unfold this back piece. Let it sit right there. The instructions tell you to lift up the entire chest piece together with the arms, and it just tells you to lift it up like that. But it doesn't seem to work, and it took me up to this point. I mean, it's the fourth time I'm transforming this figure, and it's just not working. There is I don't know if it's catching on something, but the instructions tell you to just lift everything up. And there is a way. You just have to clear these panels right here. Just put them in the middle, and then the entire chest section is going to lift up. That's the best way I can explain it, because in the first few tries, I could not get it up unless I just opened up everything else. So the instructions tell you just immediately lift it up. And then this panel right here, it needs to fold all the way back right here. And here's another cringe-worthy step. You got to fold it all the way up like this. And then somehow just let it rest so it's flush right there. Just leave it alone for now, okay? And then you will need to fold the arms this way so that the shoulders line up. Make sure you've lifted those shoulders up beforehand. Okay, then these fenders, they're gonna come out like this, okay? And then the arms or the biceps, they're gonna rotate. And then you're gonna find a way to bend the elbow and then slot the forearms in between these fenders. Okay, it's not a clear-cut way. There's no clear-cut way of doing it. The instructions just tell you to just jam it in, and that's, I guess, what you need to do. Just jam it in up there, and it should fit. You see this notch right here? This thing, or this slots right here, they need to fit underneath those tabs. I don't know how to properly, well, to explain how to properly do it, except to just jam it in. That's what the instructions say. So before you do that, rotate that waist assembly, and then find a way to just jam it right there. We can fix that later, but that's essentially what you need to do. Make sure it goes underneath that tab. Otherwise, things are not going to close properly. So once you've done that, then you're in good shape. Okay, you need to bend this bit right here. Okay, bend again right here. Then you want to bend the knee back. Okay, and at this point you can already see where this thing is going. But before you do anything else, you want to fold the feet up like this. They don't tab into anything, they just stay there. Fold these small heel pieces down back like that, and then the main heel pieces, or toe pieces I should say, should fold up like this. So make sure you follow the steps in order, otherwise, like I said, a new nightmare begins. Okay, so then these tabs right here, I feel these things are going to get brittle over time, but what can you do? So just tab everything in, and there's another tab right there. You got to go ahead and tab that onto the elbow or forearm. Do the same on the other side. And then finally, if you've done everything right, you should be able to fold this piece down like this, and these small, very thin tabs right there are going to slot onto the back of the feet, and there should be no trouble at all. It feels like you're transforming Earthrise RC at some point in time. When you first few times you do it, it really will feel very difficult, like Earthrise RC, but after a while, like I said, the fourth time, fifth time I'm doing it, it's actually a lot smoother. So the wheels are riveted, very cool, very smooth roll. You can get a really cool roll despite very low clearance on the floor. So it's a cute little Cybertronian Bumblebee. It'll fit the palm of your hand, literally. Very small, very cute. We'll get into comparisons later, but it's so tiny. It's really a bug. I love how the black kind of works out. I wish there were parts that were painted some more, but with budget constraints, this is the best they could do. The gold plastic, the gold mustard glossy pearlesque plastic really comes out here. It really comes through, just makes the whole alt mode pop. I think the gold plastic is just doing its job. Now here's another bit of amazing engineering that the designers had put in this alt mode. The alt mode is already very, very small and compact, and they still found a way to just fit all these weapons in. And put the sword right here. And this one, well, this one stays on top right here, which is fine. So all 3 weapons. I mean, for a figure with 3 weapons, you'd think that only one weapon would fit in alt mode, but they've managed to put all 3 in the alt mode, and that's quite the feat of engineering, if you ask me. For comparison, in alt mode, here he is with, again, his wave mates, War for Cybertron, Optimus Prime, and Barricade. And compared to these two, obviously he will be smaller than a Voyager class, but he's a Deluxe class, same as Barricade, and man, he's tiny. Really gives a new meaning to Minibot, to the classification of Minibot. When back in G1, Bumblebee was a Minibot, and even in War for Cybertron, he is a Minibot compared to these 2 other vehicles. And for even more comparisons in alt mode, here he is with a bunch of other figures. We've seen Optimus Prime, but here is the mold of the original War for Cybertron game, Bumblebee, and this one's the Cliffjumper version, as you've seen earlier. And you can see how small, how much more smaller this new version is compared to the old mold. And here he is with the Bumblebee movie. He's about the same scale, I would say he's practically the same scale in alt mode. And then of course here he is with the Rise of the Beast Studio Series Bumblebee. Now obviously he's more in scale with this Optimus Prime figure, but to be quite frank about it, I actually wouldn't mind the old Bumblebee scaling with this new Optimus Prime. You see the changes they've done with this new alt mode. I think it's a little bit more Cybertronian, if you ask me. I can honestly see something like this on Earth with the newest concept models from Renault, from Lexus, from Nissan. You know, this can actually work as a futuristic Earth mode car, but here you really see a lot of the paneling, even the wheels. It really gives you a more Cybertronian feel. And I think this version of the mold, or this mold, is a little bit more accurate to the video game, how he appeared in the video game, than this figure. But on a personal note, I honestly still prefer this one, albeit it's not as accurate as the new mold. I just think it's way better. And so some final thoughts on this new War for Cybertron Gamer Edition Bumblebee. Like I said in the beginning, it's not as bad as I thought it would be. Is it better than the original? I don't think so. I think in terms of plastic quality, in terms of solidness as a figure, in terms of the size and heft, I think you're still better off with the original War for Cybertron Deluxe class Bumblebee. I think that was a more solid figure. I think in terms of quality, that's still the better figure. But if you missed out on that figure, if you're looking for accuracy, a better proportioned robot mode, a more accurate alt mode, and to a certain extent, despite having a horrific transformation, the transformation on this figure is somewhat still better than the original version. If that's how you feel about this and you agree with me, then I think this is the figure for you. There are some highs and lows, some good points and bad points, but overall, it's pretty decent. It gets a 7.5 out of 10 for me. Out of the 3 figures we received in the first wave, I think the weakest would still have to be Barricade. Barricade, the robot mode was just, it was just a little disappointing. There's not a lot of playability to it. The only thing going for that figure is really the fantastic Cybertronian Batmobile alt mode. This figure and Optimus will be in a tie for me. If you're talking about quality, if you're talking about engineering and aesthetic, they'd be a tie. But if you have to get just one figure out of the wave, I think you got to get Optimus. I think it's still in your best interest to get an Optimus Prime figure in the first wave, and a lot of people will be gunning for that figure, and then you get Bumblebee next, and then maybe you get Barricade last. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think of this new Transformers Generations Studio Series, Transformers War for Cybertron Gamer Edition Deluxe Class Bumblebee. Hit that notification bell so you never miss out on any of my latest video reviews. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe. Thanks for watching.